Welcome to the Truth Ministries podcast with host Bishop Isaac Hamner and Jay Will. This podcast is for informational purposes and should not be considered a legal, tax, or medical advice of any kind. We are not responsible for any property damages or loss from the use of this podcast. For more information, email Bishop Hamner at truthministries30@gmail.com or email jwill at leewill, the letter J, at gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Bishop Hamner and Jay Will.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy, Jay Will, and I got the most honorable Bishop Hamner. How you, sir?
Hey, God bless you. God bless you. I am well. All is well. All is well. The Almighty allowed us to travel a little bit, and we're nice and refreshed and ready to go, and the world kept spinning and people kept living, and wow.
Yeah, that's the way it is. I am so glad that you had a great time. Great time on your vacation. You were in Hawaii, right?
That is correct. And Hawaii is significantly brown. I love it. If you go there, just have a high expectation that the people are going to be brown. And the weather was incredible. The people were incredible. The island is incredible. The other thing you do have to take into consideration, which I did not, is that with it being an island, of course, I'm living, on an island called Ohio. But since it was an island, everything is imported. So it's very expensive to eat. And it's not easy to just like pack a lunch going to Hawaii. It ain't like packing a picnic basket, traveling over to Hawaii. You almost got to buy food there. So there's a price tag, but it is a beautiful, beautiful place. Everyone there, very, very friendly. Really enjoyed myself. Incredibly green and incredibly brown, and I love it.
Hey, did you get a chance to visit the volcanoes while you're over there?
So I was able to see the volcanoes. I did not get a chance to see Pearl Harbor. I wanted to, but it gives me an opportunity to go back again. And we saw a lot of the historical sites that are out there. Island specific, dealing with the natives of the island. We definitely went to see where Jurassic Park was filmed, and that's a whole ranch out there, and it is just incredible. We had an incredible time. The history on the island, it is amazing how a lot of the nations that are on that island, one of the locations is the Polynesian village, and how they were able to show a timeline of how they came to the island, how they interacted, how they were able to keep their culture. They talked about the colonizers and how they came in. But even though the colonizers came into a lot of those islands over there in that region, they still were able to keep their identity. They were able to keep their language. They were able to keep their history. It wasn't like the Indianapolis Colts leaving town and they took all the records with them and, became Baltimore and all of that. So it's different that not only were they colonized, but they were able to keep their identity, even though someone else controlled a lot of the politics and the day-to-day operations of those islands. But it was an incredible, fascinating experience. I recommend everyone who can travel over there. And I was over there from a blessing from my daughter and my son, who both live in California.
Yeah.
They took both of their parents, sets of their parents, over to Hawaii, all expense paid. And it was just a blessing all around, and a blessing to have such a bright daughter and a bright son, and generous daughter and a generous son that paid our way. And we really enjoyed ourselves thoroughly.
I know that's right. Hey, your kids up for adoption?
No. But this is what I'm trying to tell people. I have three of the most high-end daughters on the planet. I mean, you're just not going to get much better than my daughters, and one of them. And I have a son who mirrors them, outstanding. And I pastor a church. So why people don't want to have spectacular children, I don't know. Why do you want your children mugshotted? I don't know. But if you want your children mugshotted, why do you want children who are disrespectful, don't behave, don't want to go to work, don't want to contribute to society? Well, I might be able to help you if you have children, especially daughters, son. I might, my family is just banging. I don't know other way to say it. But
Hey.
it's all glory be to God. But
Yes, sir.
people don't understand that it takes hard work, takes discipline. You yourself, you got to be the first example. When the scripture says the husbandman must be the first partaker of the fruit, it's not saying that I eat first. It's actually saying that I eat last because I'm the example, just like Christ. Christ said, you're not going to wash my feet, I'll wash your feet. If you're willing to be the example and you're willing to walk in consistency, then your children can pick up on that. Now, of course, there's a couple of children that take a little more time, a little more effort, but I mean, that's why you got kids. I mean, you got to be willing to invest in yourself and invest in your children. And we have a ministry that, believes in investing in children, believe in investing in families. And I understand everybody comes from a different background, but my hope is that everyone is salvageable. If we don't believe that people are salvageable, and then we're carrying the banner of Christ, I don't know why you're carrying the banner of Christ, because Christ was living real good. But the scripture says he left his heavenly estate to come down because he thought we were salvageable. Because his daddy asked a question, hey, you know what? I created him, but I'm not going to lie to y'all. This is a mess, in the words of Trump. It's a mess. It's the worst ever. It's horrible. Christ said, you know what, Dad? I'll clean it up. Don't worry about it. And he did that. And I'm saying we have to be willing to be examples like Christ. And some people are difficult, but that's okay. We got to be willing to want to put the time in, but we got to want to be leaders and good examples to be able to put that time in. And I'm saying there's we're going to have a lesson tomorrow in Torah about that, about, being colonized, being put in a state of thinking that I can't, or someone else is holding me back. No, man, nobody's holding you back from your best life. Your best life is right here, right in front of you, but you got to be willing to work for it. And you got to be willing to go towards it. And I'm saying we have processes, we have methods, we have programs, and I'm not talking about ones that give you money. We have programs to set your mind in the right space so that you can be successful. But it can't happen. But I'm thankful for my daughters, and I'm honored, and it humbles me that you want to adopt children that are giving all expense paid trips to Hawaii.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't about the all paid trips totally. It may have a little bit to do with it, Bishop.
Lord,
it wasn't all that reason.
Not all
the reason, but you may be on to something. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, you can support Truth Ministries via the Kroger app. You can, as soon as it scrolls back through, I tell you, Truth Ministries, first email them at truthministries30@gmail.com to donate to Truth Ministries via the Kroger app under Kroger Community Rewards. Type in JX228 to donate to Truth Ministries. And if you want to hit me up at LeeWillTheletterJ@gmail.com, LeeWillTheletterJ@gmail.com. All right, so, wait a minute. If you like strong coffee, go to strongcoffeecompany.com, type in the J Will Podcast as the promo code and receive a 20% discount on all your purchases. All right, so before we get started, I want to send a special prayer out to the family over at Brown College. People got killed, but I also want to pray for the families that are going through this time of year and that have suffered a loss and are having a hard time dealing with it. I'm praying that God blesses and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and give you peace. All right, so if you have comments or you want to rep your city or send a shout out, go ahead and type that in the comment section, and I will see it. And if your comment is appropriate, or your question is appropriate, I may go ahead and read it. So Bishop and I decided to do this podcast because I mentioned to him that I came across a documentary that I saw on Tubi. But it piqued my interest because I was fascinated by the amount of people who are anti-vaxxers. There's a lot of people not taking vaccines. And so the University of Minnesota performed a study in 2023. The anti-vax people jumped from 9% to 16%. 16% of the people feel like vaccines are related to autism in children. 9% of the people believe that the flu shot increase the risk of contacting COVID. 12% of the people believe that COVID vaccines cause cancer, and this is some of the studies that they the people said that this is a problem. And I know people personally that do not want to receive vaccines, and so I started to tap in. Well, why do they believe this stuff? Why don't they believe and trust the vaccines from the government? I'm not saying I do. I'm ex-military. I had no choice but to take vaccines or get an Article 15, get court-martial and all this good stuff. But, what are my personal beliefs and what somebody else's personal beliefs are really a couple of different things. So I ran across this documentary on Tubi entitled The Origin of AIDS. They claim to look at this from an ethical viewpoint. The argument is that the polio vaccine that was administered up to 1 million or plus Africans in 1957 was contaminated with the SIV virus, which comes from primates, that turns to HIV when humans are exposed to it. The theory is that the kidney cells used from the primate kidneys were not, either the process was not followed or the process was flawed. And that virus, the SIV, which the simian immunodeficiency virus, was spread to humans, which turns to HIV. And so this is where Bishop and I are. And we're going to talk about this tonight. What do you think about that, Bishop?
No, I'm right there with you. And the good thing is both of us are in the health and safety field, and both of us are in the spiritual field. Both of us. You understand sterilization. You understand why things are sterile, how they become sterile, and then how they become unsterile. You understand that. You understand the significance, not only from being in the military, but in your current occupation, the significance of following procedures and protocols. And sometimes incidents are, when they occur, that's when procedures and protocols are updated. Or sometimes procedures and protocols are updated through annual review or 5-year review or 10-year review, and you just go through review. But oftentimes, if there's a change in a procedure or a process, honestly, there has to be an incident. And to those people who are anti-vaxxers, I just want you to know that you're not new. That spirit has been in existence ever since vaccines started back in the late 1800s, back when smallpox, when it was ravaging not only the Americas, but it was ravaging the world. But I would offer this scripture to you first, Mark 16:18, and it was actually written before anti-vaxxers, and it is, and this is from Christ. They shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So my faith has never been in and we both were born during this generation, but my faith was never in taking the Tylenol, because before they had safety caps and before they had plastic, there was someone who had a bright idea to poison Tylenol containers. And that's before procedures were updated.
Yeah.
And the gentleman in the manufacturer, he poisoned the Tylenol and gave that, and they sold it. And once they sold it, people died. Well, they updated the procedures. And from that, every time you buy a pharmaceutical or any product that you're going to consume, there has to be a seal. And the seal states that no one else has touched it and it is okay. But that procedure was updated because this gentleman way back there in the 70s poisoned the Tylenol. Yeah. So the procedure was updated. But my faith was never in taking a pill. My faith was that the Almighty was going to make me whole. But faith without works is dead. So I got to take the pill just to show that the pill is just my works. Just taking this as my work. Me taking a shot in my arm, this is how I'm looking at it through a spiritual lens.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear a comment from someone who might be chiming in, or who might be listening in concerning that. But the scriptures do teach that faith without works is dead. So my works is taking a shot, but my faith is that it's not the shot that's making me whole, but the Almighty is doing the work. And your point would be, well, why take the shot and show greater faith? Because if I don't take the shot, I'm going to catch a cold or I'm going to catch influenza because you won't wash your nasty hands after you get out of the bathroom.
Now, you
So
didn't call
I'm not protecting myself from influenza itself. I'm protecting myself from your nasty behind who won't wash your hands. You won't eat well. You won't exercise. You walk outside with your hair wet. You walk outside without a coat. You're letting all manner of animals lick on you. You're exchanging all manner of saliva. And I got to come in your presence. So my work is that I'm going to take the shot because I don't know how you living in that raggedy life of yours, and I want to protect myself. So that's why I take the shot, because other people raggedy, and I don't want any part of the raggedy. So I believe that when after I take that shot, that the Almighty is the one who's going to protect me. But I'm up against people who do not follow procedures and protocols, won't wash their hands, won't eat healthy, won't wear the right clothes outside for the weather, don't understand the significance of vitamins. And I don't want to be bedridden, not to the point where I'm hospitalized, but to the point where I can't do what I want to do. So I take the shot. But that's just my works. My faith is I'm going to be made whole without it. But since I'm around all these other people, I got to protect myself from them.
Yeah.
The Almighty is protecting me from that unseen danger. But Mark 16 chapter tells me that I can, by faith, take up something that is deadly, and it doesn't have to hurt me. Doesn't have to. It's still up to the Almighty. And if I do get sick, I can call for the elders of the church, like Pastor J. Will, and he can lay hands on me. So when it comes to the anti-vaxxer, in which I understand, I had several in the congregation who were very anti-vaxxer, and they were anti-vaxxer when COVID came out, and we helped them through the process, but they still did not like my position, which is, again, faith without works is dead. I'm not believing in the COVID-19 vaccination. I'm believing in the Almighty, and I'm really protecting myself from people who don't understand more than anything. But I really want to get into the SIV, HIV of what happened over in Africa. And I want to explain to all of the listeners and all the viewers, I would love to hear their input on it, on how it wasn't, and this is facts, what I'm telling you. And Jay Will, once I say it, he's going to understand it. It wasn't the vaccine itself that spread the HIV. It wasn't that. It was something else. And when I dug into it, this is what happened when, and they didn't know. It was I hate to use the phrase honest mistake because that's insulting. It is insulting to some people, not everybody, but some people think that, but it really was an honest mistake. So when the missionaries went over to Africa to inoculate the Africans, HIV had already been on the continent of Africa before the missionaries got there. And originally, when the missionaries went over there and they began to administer the medicine, one of the things they do now that they did not do then is that anytime you are administer a shot, they actually attach the shot batch to your name. So in every capsule, there's a batch number, and it's very specific. And when they put that in your arm, they put that on your name and all of your other health information. Well, back in that day, when they went to inoculate the people, that protocol didn't exist. And they were inoculating large numbers. But HIV was already on the island. So they took the needle, J. Will, of the vaccine, but they put it in the arm of somebody who already had HIV. And then they pulled that needle out and said, next.
Huh.
And somebody else sat down behind the needle that had the HIV. Now, me and you both know we're going to if you want to break that down to them, you can. Once you pull that out, that's now a pathogen on that needle.
Yeah.
Bloodborne pathogen. And so the person behind that person who was inoculated, they might not have had HIV. But if subject A had HIV and you put a needle in them and you inoculated them and you pull it out and say, patient B, come on in here. Patient B didn't have HIV. But guess what? Patient B, if they came behind patient A and they got the serum, they are going to have HIV. So unbeknownst to a lot of the pilgrims or the doctors or the ones who went down there, they went down there to help to inoculate. And in actuality, they actually help spread HIV. They help some with giving them the vaccination, but they actually did increase the spread of the disease, not directly because of the batch, but more because of the lack of protocols that were there. And A had HIV, B did not have HIV, but after that same needle went and they just kept using the same needle, it's inadvertent, but it did happen. And since then, that's where, and it's not a myth, but that's where people then began to say that these foreigners actually spread the disease. I'm saying, yes, foreigners did spread the disease. We'd have to break down whether or not they inoculated inside of the needle with the disease. I'm going to say, and we'll peel that onion back even more. I'm going to say inside of the batch, no, there was no HIV. But I am saying because of the lack of protocols that were taken and the fact that this is a bloodborne pathogen and they were sharing needles, which is the first thing that America, teaches and learn. Don't share needles because you can spread the disease. Same thing with sex. It's a bodily exchange. But the point being, that's how that disease spread. And that's how the link with those who came down there to inoculate, that's where the link came to, because they did not do a deep enough dive into what happened. So there it is.
Yeah. So I agree that, the use of sharing of needles
Right.
is a very dangerous practice. But
Yes.
I will say that probably happened to a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But probably I will go on a limb and say not all of them, because there was an oral vaccine created as well. And so you had the injection, but you also had the oral vaccine. So either way,
No, but the oral vaccine. So to your point of the oral vaccine would not have caused the spread because there would not have been any pathogen exchange. But that's okay. The exchange occurred with sharing that needle. It's still terrible. And I'm not saying that the Africans were a test case, but I am saying that it was inadvertent, it was accidental, but in the end, they definitely spread AIDS on the continent of Africa with the intent to help the Africans. And then unfortunately, they increased the spread through their inoculations because of the practice that they use of sharing needles. That spread it out of control. Control.
I get that point. Well, what I'm saying is that the polio vaccine was made from primate chemicals or the primate
No,
kidney.
but we're the monkey cells, correct?
Yeah.
We're in agreement.
The oral and the injection were both made from the same way.
No,
And
right?
so,
No, from the cell cultures from those monkey cells, they did make cultures from those cells, and HIV, SIV lived in monkeys anyway. No disagreement. Yes.
Mhm. So I mean, but they knew, because they did the research. I didn't do the
Mhm.
research. I'm just gurgitating some of the research
Right.
that they said.
Mhm.
So there was what is it? Let me see. There was the monkeys from Boyko Island and from the rising sea levels about 11,000 years ago has been concluded that SIV has been present in monkeys and apes for at least 32,000 years.
No, yeah, SIV. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so my question is, why would they use something which, there's three specific primates that they use: the Suti, mangabeys, gorillas, and chimpanzees.
Right.
Why would they use any type of chemicals or antibodies from these monkeys, knowing that they had the SIV virus and make the polio vaccine? So whether it was oral or whether it was through shared needle, I'm sure that okay. So one speculation is that to your point, some of the natives contracted HIV because they were eating monkeys. That's one theory that they put out there. Okay, that's
Right.
not
And that's just a theory because
yeah,
and actually it comes from chimps and not monkeys.
yeah. Well, chimps,
Yeah.
gorillas, and mangabeys.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
And
I'm
they
not.
crossed over. It crossed over from SIV from these chimps to humans to HIV. Yes,
Right.
no disagreement.
So yeah. So when the human is subjected to SIV, it turns to HIV.
Correct.
But they did another study to where they took the HIV virus
Mhm.
and injected it into the chimp, and the chimp actually got better instead of getting sick. So the chimpanzee body or antibodies that the chimp has the capacity to be able to heal itself from the HIV virus, but humans cannot do that.
Right. Well, Leviticus is very clear. Yahweh told us, don't eat the blood. And we know that most pathogens, me and you do, because our training tells us that the viruses in the pathogens, now they don't always make what is quote, quote, called an evolutionary leap. What science calls an evolutionary leap, which is something that they can't explain why it was able one day on Monday not to impact us, but Tuesday it did impact us because man and chimps have interacted for thousands of years, but SIV did not make that what is quote called evolutionary leap to HIV. I'm saying anytime it occurred, SIV to HIV, I understand science saying evolutionary leap. I'm saying it's the Almighty. Almighty gave a permission. All right, I'm tired of y'all. I told y'all not to eat the blood. They keep eating the blood, and the Almighty say, well, now you know why you shouldn't eat it. But we were told not to eat the blood, but they continue to this practice, even though now we know in science that if you eat blood, whatever viruses or pathogens are there, don't necessarily mean they're going to impact you, but it could, and it could wreak havoc in your body because our bodies cannot handle all viruses, especially those viruses from animals or canines. We can't handle it, and we shouldn't handle it. The Almighty made us all different. So yes, SIV lived in chimps, and there was a leap from in Africa. And like you said, me and you had talked previously, they used to have markets where they sold these monkeys and they ate them. And potentially in one of those markets, or they used to have hunting expeditions and they hunt them. And I've seen years ago on National Geographic how it was, not to be too graphic, but they had the little monkey. They put him inside a collar. He was kicking and screaming. Not the monkey, it was a chimp. Little baby, it wasn't the chimpanzees, it was that monkey. What's another name of that monkey you said?
The Suti?
Yeah, Suchi, the small, because it was the small. This was the small one, the real small one.
The Maccabees, the Suti Maccabees.
Yeah. So they put him in this little vice, and he's kicking and screaming. They all took mallets, smacked him on the head till he died, and cracked his head open. And they took itty bitty forks and they ate this Maccabee brain. It's on television. They still got that tape. They showed that on television when I was a kid. I was like, wow, that's different. But point being, that's blood. If you're eating a freshly killed monkey and you're eating their brain, and several of them ate it and vomited, but this one weird gentleman just kept eating. Like, oh, this is delicious. Okay, so it might have started from him, but the point being, that's how that crosses over. And again, if we continue down, this discussion, if somebody has HIV, we know it should not be hard for people to understand that those who came over there to try to help, stuck a needle in the arm of somebody with HIV, didn't have safety protocols, gave someone else. We learned in America that in the 80s, again, me and you we were hot and heavy in the HIV age. Healthy men just dying of no cause. Like, what in the world? And there were several innocent people who just went to Hawksworth. And that's the name of the major blood bank in this area, Hawksworth. Just going to Hawksworth to donate blood. And in the process of donating blood, they contracted HIV. And it was like, well, how can I get HIV? Well, somebody needle, and then HIV patients who didn't know went to donate blood. And then when someone had a car accident and they went to the blood bank, because they didn't even have what I talked about before about batches and numbers. Back in the day when we were growing up in the 80s and the 90s, they didn't have all of that.
Right.
They just grabbed from the blood bank, put it in somebody's arm, not knowing that this blood was actually infected with HIV. And then from the blood bank, from the hospital put that in many patients, and patients now had HIV. And I remember this one woman, they had a television show about her, how she sued the hospital, not everybody. They sued everybody back in that day like they do today. They sued everybody involved because she received blood that was tainted. But they since changed those procedures. Those are two procedures. And this isn't 1700 history that I'm talking about. I'm talking about 1980, right, 1970. Right. That's modern, man. That's modern. That just happened. So it's not far. It should not be far for us in our ability to grasp information, to understand that if you're not following proper protocols, you're going to spread a disease by not following protocol. Because even in America in the 70s and 80s, through blood exchange, needles exchange, that's how HIV spread. That's how a lot of bloodborne, not just HIV, the other one, you know it very well, hepatitis. Mm-hmm. Hepatitis A, hepatitis spread. It was terrible in the 80s and the 90s because of the needle exchange and the pathogen exchange. It's just not good. It is not good. And we are the ones that have to say that, the debate on whether or not vaccines AIDS was spread through vaccines. To me, that's closed because I understand that, as you discussed, SIV, the culture from the kidney cells used to make a batch, and the whole batch would be bad, but they would not inoculate anybody with that batch if the monkey had SIV or HIV. That batch would be dead. But if it was a good batch, even though you use the culture cells from chimpanzees that might contain it, it would have been found out in the process, but still a good batch, bad protocols, shot into somebody's arm, is still the same effect, which is bad. That's not what you want. Now, autism, that's a whole nother issue. Whether or not vaccines are causing autism, to me, is a totally different discussion than whether or not the spread of AIDS came from a vaccine, because we understand how poor protocols can make it look like it come from the vaccine, but the patient actually had HIV to begin with, and if a needle was shared and spread, that's how that spread occurred. And if that person did not know and they were sexually promiscuous, there's a whole lot of people who are going to be impacted downstream negatively. Now, autism and whether or not vaccines cause autism, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So, I guess some of the controversy behind the origin of AIDS, which is the Tubi documentary that I watched. They interviewed people who actually worked at that lab in Africa producing the polio vaccine, and some of the testimonies of those people said that they didn't test all the batches the same way, but they still used the product produced that they didn't test, and so some of the people were infected with product that were not properly tested.
I'm in agreement, but even if the product was not properly tested, if patient A had AIDS, it didn't matter. If your needle went into that arm, so this is what I am saying. No matter how many bad batches they had and they used, they still didn't correct their needle protocol. And they were still using the same needle when they were doing mass inoculations. That wasn't addressed until they were out of there. They didn't know. They were long gone when they done inoculated all those people, and they never went back. They did not have what we learned during COVID, which was contact tracing. They didn't even have anything like that. So they didn't even have the names of the people that they inoculated. They just inoculated people and then sent them back. So even if the batch was bad, they still would not have known who they inoculated and what village they sent them to. They wouldn't have known. I'm saying with a bad batch or with poor protocols. And if the batch was bad and had HIV, I don't know if it did. I'm not saying it did.
Yeah, I wasn't there. But
no, I'm saying I don't know. But I do know for a fact that if somebody had HIV and they did do this, because this is documented, and they shared those needles, and patient A had HIV, and you put it in the arm of B who did not, yes, you are spreading it. And now A, who had it, B, who could potentially develop it, and when they do, it's going to be too late. Everybody who they interacted with, when they have it, are going to continue to spread it. Yeah. And that is a large spread. And again, they don't know who they shot. They don't know. So these people just, and I'm doing my best not to stereotype. I've not been to the continent. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm like Paul, I wasn't there, but I partly believe it. Africa is a very promiscuous country when it comes to not homosexuality. They don't deal in homosexuality as much on the continent. But when it comes to opposite sex, Oh yeah, man. They procreating. That's why they got the largest class of young people on the planet. I mean, you got to be, you know how young people are created, right? I don't want to.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you to remind me.
No, I ain't gonna. So if they got the largest numbers, and they have the largest number of 20-year-old population because they out there getting it. They out there getting it. So I'm just it's a very sexually active continent, and if you have HIV, it's going to spread. It's going to
Yeah.
spread.
Yeah. I mean, the documentary itself,
Mhm.
and that I watched was really, really good. But they had actual film. They videoed. They had actual footage of what was going on in those camps where they were collecting the chimpanzees, and actually,
Mhm.
they didn't show the actual putting them down, but they showed them in captivity. They showed them, in the labs making the vaccine. But I'm just saying, there are two different types though. The polio vaccines was oral, and the other one was through hypodermic needle.
Right.
But I guess no. So a couple of different studies have been out there that they some studies can prove it, but some studies can't prove it. So we don't know what the real truth is
No,
because
no, but we do know about
we know the outcome
right.
of what
No,
what
we know that,
happened.
but no, but me and you know about bloodborne pathogen exchange.
Right.
That's not that's not outside of our ability to understand that. I know why other people would say the HIV is in the vaccine because they don't understand pathogen exchange and they're just going the easiest route to understand why something happened. And the easiest route is to blame the man with the needle and that he put him in there when that's just not the case. Because according to hard research, hard data, SIV, as you stated, by itself uh, does not harm chimps, but it also doesn't harm humans. It has to mutate from SIV to HIV to harm a human. And the HIV is what has to be inoculated into the humans. SIV shot into a human does not, just because it is put in your body, turn to HIV. It just doesn't. That's not how it works. It did make an evolutionary leap. And that strain of HIV-1, that's the one that once you get that strain, you are now infected with what they call AIDS, or it becomes AIDS. Starts with HIV and then becomes AIDS. But SIV by itself, from the monkey can heal himself. Humans can be infected with SIV, but it does not 1 + 1 = 2 turn into HIV just because you are inoculated with it. It has to change from SIV to HIV. And once it is HIV, it then has to be somehow introduced to your blood. But SIV by itself will not cause HIV. It has to mutate. If it don't mutate, it's just SIV, and the human body can fight it off. Now that's it. I didn't make that up.
Yeah. So I
I'm
mean,
just
there was.
to your listeners, not to you, to the
Yeah.
listeners.
Oh,
I
right,
didn't
right,
make
right.
that up.
But they were saying that the SIV may have previously crossed species barriers into human hosts multiple times throughout history.
Oh,
Uh,
exactly,
but
exactly. It did.
it wasn't until recently after the event of modern transportation and global
Exactly,
communalism that it
exactly.
finally took hold, spreading beyond localized disseminations in a few individuals and small tribes.
That is correct, and that's exactly how it got out from tribe to tribe. Now, let's go to what you just said.
Uh-huh.
It was there, but it wasn't in large areas. it had to travel. Well, they were building a railroad. They had carts and buggies. And when somebody was infected, they took it with, but they had the SIV. The SIV turned to HIV. So whoever this original host was, don't know who it was, but whoever they were the ones, that host, that started that initial spread. And maybe it was just in the village, but because of transportation, it went out. That's exactly what the nurses or whatever the groups were that brought the polio vaccine there. They did the same thing as that host by not having protocols and interjecting people who didn't have SIV. They had HIV, and then they went to their villages and continued to spread. But what you're saying with the SIV is it's just factually accurate. That's exactly how it happened, because of trade, because of what they call wet markets. That's exactly how it happened. I'm saying when you do your research on it, that's what if you're looking for the truth, that's what you're going to find. But also, all those vaccine skeptics, just know that SIV in chimps and those other primates that carry it, it does not just by itself turn to HIV as SIV and it's in your body. Your body could fight it off. It is an evolutionary leap. I believe the Almighty said, you know what? Again, I'm tired of trying to explain this to y'all. Stop eating the blood. But I know where it didn't come from. It didn't come from having sex with chimps, which is just silliness that people would say it. But that right. It did not happen that way. Yeah. Definitely through being some type of carnivorous being, it made a leap, as you stated, in these little small towns and these little small markets.
Yeah.
But again, that larger debate is going to be, does it cause autism, though? That's the one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I just know that there are several studies out that supports several theories, but there's been no conclusive evidence to support either theory. They're all still arguing about this. And in the meantime, I mean, I guess the evolution of vaccines have definitely gotten better.
Right.
But it still does not lead to the trust of people who, don't want to take vaccines because they don't trust the people who are making them and trust them to be transparent enough to tell them exactly what's in it and how it was made, and is it prove the safety of it without injecting people and then getting the results of safety.
Well, this is what I want to point to, and I'm not trying to insult, but anyone's education, anyone's background, anyone's standard of living. What do we do when two parents are anti-vaxxers, were raised by parents who are anti-vaxxers, they have a child and the child is still autistic? Who are they going to blame? So I'm saying now, those parents, these anti-vaccine parents, they don't deal with the fact that there are a lot of parents now who are having children who neither parent have ever received the vaccine because their parents and, birds of a feather flock together, but their child still has autism, and they're asking questions, well, we didn't get the vaccine, I didn't get the vaccine, they didn't get the vaccine, we ate right, but my child is still autistic. What's the answer there? I don't believe that vaccines by themselves cause autism. I believe it is the lowest hanging fruit for people who aren't willing to do the work to try to find the real causal factors. Something is going on with our children and autism. I believe it has more to do with just media and the accessibility that we have to data. one of the things I looked into, other nations around the world don't even track it. America is one of the few nations that actually track autism. So to say that it is on a rise, and autism has only been tracked, or the term being on the spectrum has only been tracked since the 90s. The term didn't even exist. So we just really started looking into it. I'm saying as America. In 1950s, it wasn't tracked, wasn't even looked upon. And that's in America. That means the other nations around the world, if America wasn't looking into it, I can assure you they were not ahead of the curve. They weren't looking into autism and the increase and the rise of it. So a lot of the rise of autism, which is, it is, to me, one of the byproducts of the success of the not marketing campaign, but the information campaign to let people know that there is help for it. But in doing that, more people are actually coming forward. But they were always there, but there was no campaign letting them know there is help. So I think the rise has more to do with people being made aware that there is help for it, so more people are coming forward. But it has not always been tracked, and I do believe it has always been here even before. All you got to do is read history and look at some of the decisions that some of these leaders made, and you know that autism was here.
So, but Bishop, I will say though, the word autism may not have been tracked into the 90s, but we called it something else that I won't mention because it's kind of derogative. But we called it something else.
That's correct.
But I think that people, special needs people, have always been around, but it's been relabeled and rebranded.
But that goes to the point of the information. Now that the information is out there, and there is a safe space for people to go to and resources, yes, awareness has been heightened. But I don't know. I believe we have what we are terming autism today. I believe the pharaohs dealt with autism. They would not have called it autism, but they would have dealt with that. And I'm saying when the pharaohs were walking the earth, there were no vaccines. The fact that we're in a more modern day where we can document it, that's why I'm saying using the vaccines is just lazy research. It is a low-hanging fruit. It's one of them, since the gun is in your hand, you had to be the one that shot him. Well, maybe the gun is in my hand because I took it away from the one who actually pulled the trigger and killed him. All of that has to be investigated. But they're just looking at the low-hanging fruit. This behavior has been on the planet for a long time when you analyze a lot of decisions that have been made. Awareness is bringing it forward. And I'm saying, I'm strongly suggesting that it was here before vaccines were even created. So these anti-vaxxers don't look at history to see how some of the mannerisms, from what I hear, I don't know for certain, but here's a name that a lot of us know. And based on what we find out about this person, they would have been diagnosed with autism, and that's Mozart. Yeah, no, I'm telling you that the way he behaved, the way he interacted with society, and his genius and ability to produce music, when you read about him, his behavior is very similar, especially at a very young age, to a child who we would say is some of our greatest artists in history would have been diagnosed today by our current metrics as autistic. But Mozart is one that If people take their time and look at his life and his history, he would have easily been on the spectrum. He would have easily been considered autistic because of his mannerisms and his behaviors. And he definitely did not have a vaccine. I can assure you he ain't have one, nor his parents that created him. But he's just one. But there are many artists like him that would have been considered, once you look at their history, look at their behavior, and I'm just going by the behavior that they say was reported, he would have been considered autistic.
So let me ask you a question. So we say that the anti-vaxxers are looking at low-hanging fruit as a catalyst to why they believe what they believe.
Correct.
But how do you convince a person that strongly believes in the issue to believe otherwise?
No, I don't.
But I'm not saying you personally. I'm just saying, how does one do that? Because
No, not me. I don't try to convince that person. So the person who is an anti-vaxxer, they just don't understand information. And so this is a greater irony. I'm not trying to assault these people, but I don't have a choice. Most anti-vaxxers are autistic.
Well, I wouldn't go that far now, because I know
I'm going that far. I'm going that far. They autistic and don't know it. They are autistic and don't know. I'm telling you, Pastor J. Will. They are autistic and don't know it, and that's why they anti. They are just as ADHD, OCD as all these other alphabets. That's why they so fixated on it.
Email Bishop Hamler at truthministries30@gmail.com. Donate to Truth Ministries via the Kroger app under Kroger Community Rewards, and type in JX228 to donate to Truth Ministries, and especially send him an email. But Bishop, I know professional people who are, lawyers and nurses and physicians that are very intelligent people that don't want to take the vaccines because they think that the vaccine leads to other things.
I totally understand that. First of all, healthy people should want to know what's going into their body.
Sure.
And we don't want to somehow marginalize someone because they want to know what goes into their body. I want to know what goes into my body. I want to know how my body is going to react to it. That is a healthy respect. If you get sick and you die, or you get sick and hospitalized for a long period of time, and that hospitalization could have been prevented through a shot, then you're looking at a totally different scenario there. I don't know that Americans, we do know now through COVID, but we didn't know before, that we don't have enough hospital beds for any mass sickness.
That's fact.
We just don't. We don't have enough people to help. It's 350 million people. We only had 100,000 at the time of COVID, 100,000 ICU hospital beds. Those numbers are well off. So there's just no way that hospitals can handle it. So vaccines, from one perspective, the goal is to ensure that hospitals are not overrun with people who have some type of infection. But I do respect the person who does not want to take the vaccine, as long as they understand, like we found out during COVID, unfortunately, a lot of nurses and doctors took their own life. We cannot handle the capacity. There's not enough ambulances to get you if there is a major infection and everyone needs a hospital bed. We don't have enough hospital beds. But what we do have enough of are plants that are able to produce vaccines that will help reduce how many people are going to need to go to the hospital at one time. So I totally understand if somebody don't want a vaccine. I totally understand that, because you don't want to put it in your body. I don't want to marginalize that. They just need to know hospitals do not have the capacity to handle large numbers of people because of a very specified infection that has overtaken a large number of people.
Yeah.
Hospitals just can't handle it. And then a lot of people are going to die unnecessarily. And I'm not saying that autism or anything else is a worthy exchange for inoculating people. Not suggesting that at all. But as long as they understand, if they get sick or make somebody else sick and the hospitals are overran and then somebody can't get help because there's not enough beds, and then the person who can't get help die, and you live and did not take the shot, but you live, and the person outside dies, you should feel some type of way about yourself, because you would not have been as sick to need hospitalization had you taken the shot. That don't mean you would not have gotten sick, but you could have recovered at home. But you needed to recover in a hospital because the virus overtook you. That's the point that people don't even talk about when it comes to vaccines. The goal of any vaccine is not to shield you from an infection. The vaccine only prevents the infection, if you become infected, from elevating to the point where you need to be hospitalized, and hospitals are overran with patients. That's it. But if you're saying, well, I don't want to roll dice like that, that's fine. But know if there's ever a major infection and it could have been prevented and you didn't take it, but you got into the hospital first, and then somebody else who needed it could not get to the hospital, then you still got the infection anyway. Again, how do you explain these people who still get the infection and did not receive the vaccine, or they still have autism and did not receive any vaccines? Just low-hanging fruit, man. But that hospital part, me and you know that part is real. Hospitals being overtaken because they can't handle it. I see it in children's all the time. When what's that one that happens with children? That new one, RSVP,
or
RSV.
Yeah, the respiratory virus.
Yeah, what is it called? What is it? It wasn't around when I had kids. It's new. RSV, RVP. I don't know. So it wasn't around when I was a kid, but it's brand new. Yeah, it's a respiratory virus. But the point being, when it hits hard, and I go to children's, the lobby is packed. And I mean hundreds of children inside of children's hospitals lobby. And I'm just letting society know they don't ever see that. I can tell you this, the news cameras don't ever come down there during those stretches of influenza when children's hospitals lobby is literally overran with parents with these babies that have this infection that is spread, and they're all scared to death. And you got 10 doctors, but when you got 10 doctors and 500 children, the math, it is never going to work. It's never going to work. So the whole goal of any vaccine is to prevent 500 needy children being inside of that room at the same time. Now, 500 is an exaggeration, but 25 children in children's hospital because of a major infection is not an exaggeration.
Right.
And the patience that a parent has to have to watch another child go back behind the door while their child is sitting there suffering, they don't think you causing something. You sitting in the waiting room with your child, but you see this other child go back. I'm not saying they came before you or after you, but how many children do you think a sick mother or parent are going to let go back behind there without them saying, wait a minute, I had to be before one of them? But all that is prevented with, that's why vaccinations are important. But people won't go down in the trenches. Me and you are in the trenches. They won't go in the trenches and see what this anti-vaxxation is doing. We had 2 children down in Texas already die within this year of whooping cough because they were not vaccinated. Now, that's not a lot, but that's a lot to them two parents.
Yeah.
That lost their child. And whooping cough is completely preventable with the vaccine. But they lost their children because they thought the vaccine would kill them. All right, well, whooping cough actually killed them. There's no thought about it. They're gone.
Yeah.
And we just don't deal with the reality of what happens when you make these decisions, and the decision that you made based on fear actually takes a life. And that life that is taken ain't even yours. I just don't like that part. I don't like that this poor child that can't make a decision for itself has to suffer from a parent who, for whatever reason, has made a decision not to, and then the child has to die literally for that decision. And the child would not have died had they received that simple vaccination. So I appreciate the anti-vaxxers. I understand where you are, but you still have not explained to me how this child that has autism has two parents that have never been vaccinated, their parents were never vaccinated, and how history shows several figures would have been diagnosed as an autistic child and vaccines weren't ever created. And my example to them that they need to research is Mozart.
Yeah. So I don't know, that Mozart was ever diagnosed with autism or not. Or
so how can you diagnose him with something that didn't even exist? That's my point.
Well,
so we're using the current diagnosis of this current syndrome, and we're using their tables, and we're looking at what history says their behavior is. That we can do. It's you know what it's like? It's like carbon dating. Do you believe in carbon dating? I do.
Well, yeah. I mean,
okay, so I believe that they can determine the age of something through science and through tests.
Sure.
So but the thing is dead, but they can still tell you. So I'm saying they didn't have to be alive. I can use the same metrics that they have today to determine based on behavior patterns what they did. Use that scale through history, look at somebody's behavior and say, wow, if they were today, they would have been on that spectrum. So I understand your point of saying you don't know. I don't either. I'm only going on a hypothesis based on what recent information is saying. This is your behavior pattern. This is what you do. And do we see people in history who act like that? I mean, you want to talk about somebody autistic? Hitler.
Oh
yeah, Hitler.
Yeah.
No, ain't no question.
Yeah. Well,
no, it ain't no question.
I mean,
yeah.
Artistic or autistic, because
autistic. The other one is Asperger's. That's another one that's out there.
Asperger's, yeah.
Asperger's, OCD, ADHD, all of them alphabets. A lot of these men were that. Of course, they weren't diagnosed, didn't exist. But if we look at them, yes, they were. And we look at their behaviors, what they didn't make sense. It made sense when you look at it from the prism that they would have been diagnosed. And it wouldn't have changed anything. But I'm just telling you, they had these same character traits and they were never vaccinated with anything. But they still had the character traits. It's been this behavior. Listen, the scripture talks about, well, I can't help it, man. I was just raised by a bunch of people who were not politically correct. But scriptures talk about the lunatic son and how he cast himself. That's what they call him. They call him a lunatic. So he cast himself into the fire, but it was an unclean spirit. But he cast himself, he cut his the one in the rocks cut himself. The lunatic son would cast himself in the fire and hurt himself. But I'm saying he would have been definitely on the spectrum, throwing himself in the fire.
Right. But that goes back to my point to where, we called it something else.
Yes, exactly.
We didn't call it autism or Asperger's. We called it something else. And I think that as we evolve as humans, I think that there needs to be better explanations of what vaccines consist of and the genetic makeup of vaccines to help us all understand the importance of a vaccine. And maybe there won't be any confusion out there that the polio vaccine caused HIV.
No, I think that discussion is in the right arena. That's the discussion we should be having. What are the ingredients? How was it made? That's the right discussion.
Yeah.
But
because
this is speculation.
But when you have people who are not scientific, like when I read the back of a soda bottle, I had to look up what some of this stuff is, man. Like,
oh, I agree. Well, they're taking a lot
stuff?
of that out. Yeah, no, a lot of that stuff they're taking out. It's the red dyes and things of that nature. They are removing, as they should remove. I don't think any of that is beneficial or helpful. All of that needs to be removed.
Yeah, well, I guess we like Pinky and the Brain.
That ain't no question.
We're trying to solve world issues.
Oh yeah, I agree.
We're
doing the best we can.
Yeah, but I do think that the documentary on Tubi, The Origin of AIDS, is a really good documentary to watch. But we all have to do our due diligence and do our research. And just for giggles, I will say that I won't ever really look down on anybody for their, what their choices are, whether you want to take a vaccine or whether you do want to take a vaccine. I've always taken vaccines. I haven't had any significant problems, unless you listen to my wife tell a story. I have serious mental side effects.
They don't have a wife vaccine, though. They don't have a vaccine.
Yeah. They do, but it's illegal. You end up with 25 to life.
Right.
But ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit up Truth Ministries 30@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with Bishop Hamner. Donate to Truth Ministries via the Kroger app under Kroger Community Rewards. Type in JX228 to donate to Truth Ministries. And if you want to holler at your boy, Jay Will, hit me up, LeeWill@gmail.com. If you have a topic you want me and the Bishop to touch on or discuss, use one of those email addresses, truthministries30s@gmail.com or LeeWill@gmail.com. And let us know. We'll look it up for you. We'll talk about it. And if you want to be a part of it, hit one of us up and we'll see can we bring you on. And I guess, Bishop, anything else?
No, and I share your sentiment. We do not want to marginalize anybody that for their convictions, religious, political, personal. If they don't want to take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine. We totally, I understand that. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. And our prayers are with the country that there is resolution. My prayers also for all of those who work in a hospital, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who physically, they have to give their time, their energies, and their lives to help you improve from a condition that might have been completely preventable. And no, that is not their job. No, their job is to help people who got ill or got sick, not because of anything they did not do, but because of something that just occurred. That's their job. They're just not supposed to be there, nurses and aides and doctors, to clean up our mess. That's not why they're there. And anything that is preventable, that can help reduce the strain on them, I'm 100% for helping those who literally dedicate their lives to help us.
Yeah. I mean, the nurses and doctors and aides, nurses, aides, nurses assistants, are there to help us when we're in the need of help due to crisis. But I think that some things we cause on ourselves, and then we overflood that market, and they definitely cannot keep up with the capacity at certain times. And so we got to do better with taking care of ourselves. We have to do better with educating ourselves.
That's right.
But I do also strongly believe that the pharmaceutical makers, all the people who are approving all these vaccines and medicines, they owe it to us to explain to us what's exactly in this stuff to help, relieve some of the emotional pressures and psychological pressures involved with not knowing. Because I mean, you can open up a pot all you want to, and I can look in that pot, and it may smell good, but I'm definitely going to ask you, what is this?
What is this?
What is this? And I think that there are some states that are not mandating children to be vaccinated at this point. Do I think it's an accident waiting to happen? Could be. But nothing could actually result in this negatively. But who knows? I don't want to take that chance.
No.
I'm going to take my vaccine. But I'm just saying, tell us what's in this stuff.
Right.
Let us know what it is, man. Like, if I walk up and say, hey, eat this sandwich, the first thing you're going to say is, what kind of sandwich is this?
What kind of sandwich it is? I agree.
And I
Transparency.
Just think we got to be more transparent. And, they say, oh, well, it's common knowledge. Well, common knowledge is not really common because everybody's not medical. And even some of the medical people have to go research in their medical journals and medical books, go to medical reviews to find out what certain things are, and just be more transparent. Let us know. That's all I'm saying.
Amen.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, homies and homettes, don't forget to go to the doctor. That's my thing. You know what I'm saying? I know it's probably funny since we talking about, let us know what's in it, but go to the doctor, get yourself checked out. A1C, blood pressure, and cholesterol. And let us do better about taking care of ourselves, because don't you know that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost? We need to be good stewards over what God has given us. Until the next time, may the Lord God bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you, and may the Lord God give you peace. Until next time, Bishop and I gonna holler. Deuces.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. For more information, email Bishop Hamner at truthministries30@gmail.com or email jwill@leewill, the letter J, @gmail.com.